Grace and peace be to everybody out here. And we're going to talk a little bit about what Habib or the Bieb was saying about effectiveness in the fight with Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. And I think it's a good topic to discuss because I do believe that there's much we can say about that. So we're going to get into that. But before I do, I want to introduce you once again to the sponsor of what you need, which is LIVE products. LIVE, live now. We're live now, and we have a range of products here. We have drinks. We have flavors orange, grapefruit, lime, and fruit punch. We also have, in preparation right now, we also have the flavors sorrel and morbi that are the additional drinks there. We also have cleaning products, LIVE range of cleaning products. We have here disinfectant, we have dishwashing liquid, we have liquid detergent, and we also have fabric softener. If you are in the Trinidad and Tobago area, you can check out these products. You can order these products. You can order online or you can order by calling. You can WhatsApp me at 319-4788, or you can order via phone at the same number. What you need, we're talking effectiveness. And Joe Habib, he brought up a certain point in on his channel, and I want to elaborate on that point a bit. So let's get into it. So he was saying that Artur Beterbiev, even though he wasn't hitting Bivol flush with shots, he still managed to do damage to Bivol by punching on his arms. He was able to, he said he was hurting Bivol by doing that. And I remember Deontay Wilder punching Malik Scott and knocking out Malik Scott, even though Malik Scott blocked the punch because his hands were near to his head. He got knocked out. His hands hit his head, and he got knocked out. And it is true that Beterbiev did punch on Bivol's arms, and because of that, Bivol's hands caused a cut over his left eye. So his left eye cut was because his hands, the punch went through the hands and actually still cut Bivol's eye. And that happened in the 10th round. Even though Bivol's eye was swelling up as the rounds were going along, but Beterbiev was so powerful that he was able to cut Bivol's eye. Now, therefore, Bieb makes a pretty interesting point that, and if you've ever watched any Artur Beterbiev fight, he's very powerful, and so it's a valid point to a certain point. I'll tell you why I say it's a valid point that we have to consider in terms of effectiveness. Remember, effectiveness is about how much damage you can do to your opponent. It's about, are you achieving your objective based on your game plan? Like Beterbiev's game plan is to pressure fighters. So is he succeeding at pressuring Bivol? Is he slowing him down? Is he putting damage on him? Is he able to make him not throw certain shots? Okay, that would be his objective as a pressure fighter, so he can corner him. He take away his legs, corner him, and beat him down and get him out of there. So that's what Beterbiev effectively was trying to do. Bivol was upsetting that and disrupting that by jabbing and also by using his footwork to pivot out of the way of shots and not stay directly in front of Beterbiev. And even if he was directly in front of Beterbiev, he was at a safe enough range where he could fire his shots and Beterbiev would have to reach in to find him. Okay, so this was basically the game plan of both guys. Now, the question you have to ask is, was Beterbiev effective in his game plan? Was he being effective in his game plan of what he was doing to Bivol? Or was Bivol more effective in what he was doing with Beterbiev? That's what you have to ask. So While I do agree with Beeb that Beterbiev, even though he wasn't hitting Bivol flush, he did do some damage to Bivol because indirectly. The question is not that. The question is who is more effective? Because remember, it's a competition, right? So is Bevo more effective at what he's doing to implement his game plan to neutralize Beterbiev? Is he more effective than what Beterbiev is doing to him? Right? Because we know Beterbiev is the more powerful puncher, right? We know that. We know he's the stronger fighter as well, right? And he had to use his power and his strength to his advantage. He's not as accurate as Bivol, even though he had a decent jab. He was not as accurate as Bivol was. He wasn't as successful as Bivol was in terms of landing clean flush shots. But what he had in his advantage was his strength, right? He's able to absorb punishment. He's able to absorb shots. So, if he were to hit Bivol flush, for example, Bivol probably be in a lot more trouble than if Bivol hit him flush, right? Okay. So now that that's all well and said, effectiveness has to do with, okay, what was Beterbiev's game plan? What was Bivol's game plan? Beterbiev wants to get close. He wants to pressure Bivol. He wants to beat him up to the head and the body. He wants to slow him down. He wants to get him out of there. And if he doesn't get him out of there, at least beat him comprehensively. A comprehensive beat down. Bust him up. Bruise him up. Because that's what Beterbiev is, a grinder. He's a bruiser, right? Bruiser type fighter. Pressure fighter. Bivol's game plan was to outclass Beterbiev, disrupt him, confuse him, frustrate him, and then have these massive little surge attacks on him and beat him up as the runs go along. You want to beat him up, slow him down, beat him up until, he's just totally dominating Beterbiev. This is what Bivol's game plan was. Now, the question is, who accomplished their game plan much more than the other? All right. Now, here's the question for Bieb. And this is the question he should ask himself. Beterbiev wasn't landing flush shots. We all know this. Okay. He couldn't really land flush shots. Every now and then he had a nice little right to the body. His jab was his most effective tool. That's where he would catch Bivol. Particularly, Bivol was a little bit reckless sometimes, coming in on attack mode. Once he pushed Beterbiev back, Beterbiev's jab actually was a very effective weapon when Bivol went on the offensive, and he would catch Bivol coming in. And maybe he should look at that in the rematch, setting traps for Bivol instead of trying to bully him and pressure him and stuff like that. He wasn't. I'm surprised Beterbiev didn't realize that he was more effective when Bivol's coming to him and catching Bivol than when he was pursuing Bivol, because he wasn't really achieving much success when he was pursuing Bivol. So here's let's just put it this way. If you look at the game plan of both fighters, Bivol did, for the large part of the fight, for most of the fight, Bivol was hardly hit directly. There were very few hard flush shots that Beterbiev was able to land on Bivol. And usually when Beterbiev did land a flush shot on Bivol, it usually was a jab. And it was usually encountering Bivol as Bivol's on the offensive. Okay. When we looked at, therefore, Bivol, on the other hand, he was landing a lot of flush shots. He was not as predictable in his offense because he would mix up his shots. He would throw all kinds of variety of shots to the head and to the body. He would not telegraph his shots, so Beterbiev didn't know. So Beterbiev had to be more cautious in closing the distance against Bivol, because Beterbiev functions mostly at mid-range and inside. Bivol really thrives on the outside, even though Bivol can handle himself on the inside. So this was a fight of real estate, of range, as Teddy Atlas said, real estate. And Beterbiev was trying to work his way into the distance where Bivol was. Whereas Bivol was trying to keep Beterbiev at a range where he could hit Beterbiev, but Beterbiev couldn't hit him, which is why sometimes Bivol was going backwards and pivoting and stuff like that, right? Okay, so what was the game plan? Who was more successful in their approach with their game plan? Well, we have to argue Bivol was more successful. And the reason being that one, Bivol was off to a great start, and he was 5-zip because he was maintaining that range more or less. Secondly, whenever Beterbiev actually could close distance to throw something on Bivol, Bivol would just close up like a shell. He would shell up, and there was really nothing that Beterbiev had, no targets to really land anything. He was just throwing punches. And while Bivol was cutting his eye, we really didn't see Bivol slow down. We saw Bivol actually use more footwork and start to move around the ring even more. I didn't really see, Bivol was a little bit sloppy with some of his shots, but that's Bivol more or less. He's not the more powerful fighter anyway. But he did have enough power for Beterbiev. He did hurt Beterbiev, I believe in round 5 he hurt him. I believe in round 8 he hurt him again. And I believe in round number 10 he also hurt Beterbiev. Okay? So Beterbiev knew he couldn't just go in there and try and railroad Bivol, no matter what he was doing, because he had to watch for return fire, which could come at any point in time. And Bivol had some respect for Beterbiev because he knew if he was too reckless, he could get caught with something heavy. So what you saw was Bivol in the early parts of the fight, he was the pressure fighter, and Beterbiev was more on the back foot, and Bivol was picking him apart and just beating him up, right? But then Beterbiev started to turn it up, and now he was trying to stalk Bivol, but Bivol would hold his ground from round 6 to round 10. He was holding his ground mostly, and if he did get his back to the ropes, he would spin out from the ropes. Beterbiev started to increase the pressure more and more and more, and he was having more success closing the distance. But once he reached a certain point where he closed a certain amount of distance, Bivol would shell up. So he was mostly banging on arms, okay? And while he had success in terms of round 10, particularly, where he busted Bivol's eye, punching on Bivol's arms, the success wasn't great that it impeded Bivol's vision. It also didn't seem to impede Bivol's energy. Bivol was still able to move around the ring quite a lot. And when he was ready, he could settle down in front of Beterbiev and trade with him. And you saw Bivol trading a lot with Beterbiev. They were both throwing blows, heavy shots at each other. Rounds 8, 9, 10, 11. Bivol didn't throw much shots because I think he got hurt some point in round 11 and he just shelled up. And I think he was conserving his energy for round 12. And in round 12, they were trading shots like crazy. Right. So what I've noticed is, and Bivol was missing and Beterbiev was missing quite a lot coming down to the latter half because both of them were tired. Right. But what is interesting to me, STE says tough one to score. No, it wasn't a tough fight to score, my friend. Not at all. Not if you're looking at clean, effective punching. It wasn't tough at all. You're fooling yourself. And that's why I said, time and time again, that in these kinds of fights, if you don't understand boxing, you're going to always be confused because you're seeing a very powerful guy fighting another guy who's not as powerful. And because every punch that he lands on the other guy seems to move him, you are persuaded that the more powerful guy is winning the fight. He's not winning the fight. You got to get the punch into. You have to get the punch past the defense of the other guy, right? And so Bivol was carrying out his game plan quite well, which is why at the end of the fight, Bivol raised his arms and he was happy. He was satisfied with what happened. Whereas Beterbiev, there was a lot of urgency in Beterbiev's camp where they were suggesting, hey man, you gotta put real pressure on him. You got to throw a lot of punches. You got to knock him out. There was much more urgency in Beterbiev's camp because they felt Beterbiev was behind. And clearly he was because Bivol had outscored him. Bivol was ahead, had a very quick head start, in my opinion, on my scorecard. Beterbiev was 5 rounds down. Okay. So it was tough for Beterbiev to get back into the fight. And he was 5 rounds down because he wasn't landing much of anything. He landed a couple body shots. And I heard Teddy out to say Beterbiev was going to the body and he was landing a lot of body, and that's bullshit as well. The reason why Beterbiev wasn't landing up much body shots was because Bivol was protecting his body quite well, and he was using range and distance to just be out of the way. Beterbiev was doing the same thing. Don't get me wrong. That's why Bivol at a certain point in time wasn't jabbing, because when he tried to jab to get range, Beterbiev would just take that half step back. Okay, but the point is that Bivol still was able to land really clean shots on Beterbiev. But because Beterbiev is so tough, as I said before, and strong, he was able to take those shots. But he wasn't willing to walk into that line of fire all night long. That's why, you remember, Bivol is a guy who is more of a counterpuncher. Okay? He's more of a counterpuncher. You slip up, he's going to blast you. And that's what happened with Beterbiev. When Beterbiev slipped up and thought he could close the distance, Bivol would hit him a 6-punch combination, a 5-punch combination, and Beterbiev would back out of it. He had to reset. Okay? And we've seen this over and over in the fight, and that's why the fight went the way it went. That's why the fight even went the distance. It's because Bivol was like, if you slip up, you're going to pay. Beterbiev had the power to hurt Bivol, but he wasn't in a situation where he could use and deliver that power like he wanted to, and which is why you didn't see a typical Beterbiev fight where he was the bully for most of the fight. That didn't happen. In this fight, Bivol was walking him down early, and then Bivol started to stand his ground in the center of the ring, but he wasn't going to give up range and distance, so he would step back if Beterbiev came forward, and then he would circle out of Beterbiev, right? So very Mayweather-esque, very Pernell Whitaker-esque. You could see this kid is a defensive genius, but at the same time, he had that offense, and he did certain things in the ring that showed he was the ringmaster. It wasn't Beterbiev that was the ringmaster. Beterbiev was walking around the ring all the time, and just to prove my point, people say Beterbiev cut off the ring. He didn't cut off the ring. Come on now. Because every time Bivol's back hit the ropes and Beterbiev tried to close distance, Bivol would circle out. He would pivot out of there. So I disagree. Every single point that people try to make about effectiveness with Bieb talking about effectiveness with Beterbiev, I can easily show he was not as effective as Bivol. If Beterbiev was as effective as you guys claim, and remember, he's punching Bivol's guard, and Bivol is busting his own eye, right? So if he's really effective, he'd do even more damage. It's because he couldn't do more damage. He tried everything. He tried to rough up Bivol, but Bivol, I'm going to show you what Bivol did, because a lot of y'all just don't understand boxing, so you don't see the subtleties in it, what the lead hand can do. See, Bivol, like Floyd Mayweather, understands something. I'm going to go into the orthodox stance and show you something. When a guy's in close to you, right? He's in close to you. See this lead hand here? You rest it on his shoulder, or you rest it on that side of him. That takes away this whole thing. The guy can't hook. He can't hit you here, because you hit him. You have this on his chin. He can't turn and hit you. That's what Biebel was doing. And this. Sometimes he'd slide up with the shoulder up on here and protect here. So Beterbiev can hit him over here. The shoulder's keeping Beterbiev off on this side. And when Beterbiev starts to rabbit punch him here, this blocks everything. See, y'all don't understand boxing. Andre Ward would appreciate this. Shakur Stevenson would appreciate this. Richardson Hitchens would appreciate this. Devin Haney would appreciate this, because they understand boxing. It's all about positioning. And a lot of y'all just don't understand this game. Y'all don't understand this game. The use of the lead hand. Who was the better of the two with the lead hand? Bivol. Who was controlling who? Bivol was controlling Beterbiev. As much as Beterbiev was tenacious and he was taking up the ante and he was coming in, he wasn't landing. Why? Ask yourself why. What was Bivol doing to take that away from him? We saw Beterbiev swing at ear. I'm in the orthodox stance. I'm a southpaw. I'm comfortable this way, okay? I'm in the orthodox stance, okay? I have to show you guys because you guys don't know what you're watching. You guys don't know what you're watching. But the people who know boxing understand what happened. I'll demonstrate. Bivol's here, but he's not going straight back. No. First thing, he's circling. He's inching back this way. Okay, that's one. Two, Beterbiev decides to come forward. When does Bieb catch Beterbiev? In between the beats. That's why we call it timing. Timing. It's not about speed. It ain't about power. It's about timing. So Beterbiev is here, right? I'm gonna do it sideways. Beterbiev is here, and he throws his jab with his chin up in the air. Because he has to leap in to close the distance. And that's when Bieb is here, and he takes one step back and check hooks him and spins out. Check hooks him and spins out. And Beterbiev, after he throws his leaping jab, gets caught with the shot, comes with the overhand right, because he likes to throw his overhand right, and he completely misses everything. Okay? But if you don't know what you're watching in boxing, you'll never understand what I just said. You think that Beterbiev is just relentless. Look at him come. Okay, he missed him, but he's going to get him. He's going to get him. Meanwhile, the Matador is doing an exceptionally good job controlling the bull. See? Because y'all don't know boxing. I know y'all don't know boxing. When y'all say some really stupid shit like this was difficult to score. No, it wasn't. You just don't know what you were watching. And you're echoing what the commentators were saying. Because you're depending on them to tell you what's happening in that ring. You can't see it for yourself. You don't believe what your eyes are telling you. You believe what you're hearing, not what you're seeing. So that's why Beterbiev couldn't rough up Bieb in a clinch. It's how Bieb was oriented. And again, it has to do with the lead hand. Let me show you guys a little bit more stuff about the lead hand. Okay? See this? I'm in the orthodox stance. I can be like this. I can be like this. It doesn't matter. This is my lead hand. And let me tell you how important the lead hand is. The shoulder protects the chin if you're in the shell. If I do the extended guard like this whole thing protects my chin. Because, look, I just got to do this, and it protects my chin. Can you see my chin? No, you can't, right? And if I use this, there's so many ways to use this weapon here. So many ways to use this weapon. And still be offensive at the same time, but be defensive at the same time. Okay? There are several different stances. There's this, which is what Beterbiev uses. There's this, and there's this. Okay? Important thing for you to understand is that, see this weapon here? This weapon can blind you. Okay? This weapon can blind you. Can't see me, right? So watch this. Watch this. Whoo! Right? Whoo! I can blind you. It's called occupying you. I can occupy you. Okay? And watch this. This is the most beautiful of them all. I don't have to just blind you to throw a right behind it. I can blind you and then hook off of it. I can blind you and I can catch you with a hook instead. So if you're thinking of countering my right hand, instead of countering my right hand, I got my left hand catching it. Then I can come back with the right hand. Then I can finish off with the jab. See, a lot of you guys are fans of fighters. You're not fans of the sport. Y'all are not fans of the sport. Let me say it again. Because the beautiful thing is the sport of boxing. It's not who's punching. It didn't matter if this was two unknown fighters facing each other. The beauty is in what they can do and what they do and how they execute what they do. And Bevo was extremely efficient and extremely effective in what he was doing. He knew he wasn't the bigger, stronger guy. He knew that. But he also knew that he didn't need to be the bigger, stronger guy. He picked his spots. He mounted his offense when he needed to. He moved when he needed to. He conserved his energy when he needed to. He had to get a second wind. Round 6 was a time where he was trying to take a rest. Round 11 was another time when he tried to take his rest for the final round. He paced himself. And see, y'all not seeing all of that. Y'all saying, oh, he faded and this. No, he's not fading. But Beterbiev took up his game a notch. And Bevo decided, I'm going to go defensive, watch what he's doing, and then I'm going to handle him in the 12th. And that's what y'all just don't understand these things. I'm telling you stuff, and some of y'all still clueless. Y'all still, I see one of you rambling on and on and on because you're brain dead. You can't process what I'm saying. I'm demonstrating things. I'm telling you things that happened in that fight, which you overlooked and you didn't even see. And you're rambling on and on about your fighter as if partisanship is somehow going to get you to win the argument. This isn't about partisanship. This is about boxing, enjoying it, loving it, understanding it. And most of you don't know shit about boxing. I can tell. So, you know, there are things called wrinkles in boxing. I told y'all that the lead hand can control a fighter. You can control a fighter without punching them. I told y'all about the collapsed lead hand, how you use your forearm to frame a fighter. Framing keeps a fighter in a particular position where they can't hit you. And boxers who are really advanced, they can use their lead hands not just to frame, but to actually reposition fighters. They literally can take their hand and move a fighter this way or that way they want them to move. That's advanced special effects. It's different. It's a different level of boxing, right? You're not bullying the guys. You're just moving them where you want them. And you can set a trap so that it helps you to know what they're going to throw so you can move them because their balances, you can shift their balance. And so by shifting their balance, you can get them to go in the position you want them to be at. You see? That's the sweet science. See, a lot of y'all don't understand what I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? I can demonstrate it, but I'm not going to demonstrate it right now. But that's what you can do in boxing, because boxing's about balance. Another key thing that a lot of y'all overlook: timing, balance. They're more important than power and speed. Timing and balance. If you're a good dancer, you're going to have good timing and good balance. You're going to have good rhythm. That's important for boxing. Swimming without getting wet involves timing and balance. If your timing is that much off, you can get hit with a punch and get knocked out. But if your timing is right, the guy's going to barely miss you and you'll be in position to make him pay. And Bevo's a guy who's very rarely out of position. Meaning, not only is he in position to make sure that you miss, but he's also in position to make you pay. That's boxing. You see? Timing, very important, and balance are two very important things that the very great boxers have. Okay? I keep on saying these things to try and educate you guys. Most of you don't take the education because you're too arrogant. So you end up talking about power and speed over and over and over again. And you ignore things like timing and balance. How guys like Canelo beat much bigger guys than them. Timing, trap setting, balance. How do you beat a fighter who's much quicker than you? He's just much faster than you. He's twitchy. He's trigger happy. You're not twitchy. Defense, timing, balance. You have to learn to time him. He's going to indicate what he's doing, so you have to watch his body language. So maybe in the first 2-3 rounds, you'll be assaulted. You have to have your defense and stay behind that. And you're watching and you're learning and you're studying that fighter as he continues to mount his offense. And if he's a defensive fighter, mount his defense and see what he does repeatedly as a habit. Because what you're looking for is repetition, something that somebody's doing over and over. A guy like Bevo, it's kind of hard to find what he's actually doing repetitively because he varies both his defense and offense quite a lot. And while he has go-to punches and so on, he still has variety in how he does it. You don't know if he's going to jab to your body or to your head. You saw Bevo do double jabs. He would jab to the body and to the head. Sometimes he double jab to the head, one to the body. Sometimes as Beterbiev is coming in, Bevo will change levels and spear jab to Beterbiev's body. Now, I'm not saying that Beterbiev wasn't throwing some jabs. In fact, I saw Beterbiev actually change levels himself and jab Bevo. I also saw him throw a lead right to Bevo's body, beautifully placed, really wonderfully placed right to Bevo's body, and he did it by changing levels. Now, let me demonstrate it for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. So, Beterbiev has a wide stance like Bevo, and Beterbiev can drop his stance right here, and then he can lance a right hand to the body. He comes off center line to throw the right hand, and he steps in, boom, okay? And when he steps in, Beterbiev will then pivot away from the target. See, I'm not saying that Beterbiev is a simple fighter. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying Bevo's a better fighter than Beterbiev, but Beterbiev is a very good fighter himself, clearly, with power. And so what Beterbiev did, which I thought was brilliant, was he stabbed Bevo to the body with a lead right hand. And that's a rare thing. You don't see that very often. The people who I've seen do that are the Canelos, the Floyds. They do that. They would throw the lead right hand. I also see Devin Haney's doing that. Devin Haney would throw so there are different ways to throw the right hand. You can sweep the right hand, which is this. It's not a cross, it's a sweep. And the idea behind it is when you sweep the right hand, you can hit the spleen area. You're not shooting it straight. You're not shooting it across your body. You're sweeping it, okay? Like that, right? And usually you sweep the right hand when you're trying to hit like a spleen shot to the body. It's not a hook, it's a sweep. Okay, it's a little different. It's like taking a broom and sweeping. Okay, it's the action is more like that. The hook is more like this, right? Okay, so Beterbiev swept the right hand, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful because he was off center line and everything, and he threw it perfectly placed to Bevo's to his abdomen area. It was beautifully. And Bevo did not block that. It was well placed. I saw Beterbiev also Beterbiev doesn't realize it, but he has a very effective jab defensively. When he's pulling backward, when he's moving backwards, his jab. Let me demonstrate. So Beterbiev fights like this. Okay, his lead hand is right here, and he can pop it right there. So he can give you a nice, short, strong jab. And if he's stepping in, it's beautiful. Okay, because his hands are up high like this, but he can get down to his body, he can protect his body. And sometimes if he stays more in the crouch position, he can actually slant that jab right into the body. But he has to charge in. He charges in. So he looks something like this. It looks something like this. Right? He charges in. Okay, off his jab. So he gets a lot of velocity. He gets a lot of inertia when he jabs, because he jabs really hard. However, Bieb is able to time that jab. That's why I said timing's everything. And he can catch Artur Beterbiev in between his attacks. Because Beterbiev actually leaves the ground, both his feet come off the ground when he's jabbing or when he's closing distance. He actually leaps through the air to close distance. And that's where he's vulnerable to get countered. Okay, so that's what Bieb was taking advantage of. And as I said before, it doesn't matter how fast Bieb is or how fast Beterbiev is. What's important is the timing, to be able to time the guy in between that and catch him with a check hook or with a right hand, left hook. You know, right hand off the center line. So, for example, this is what Bieb would do. Now, Bieb doesn't throw a straight right hand. He always loops. He loops his right hand. So even when he's off the center line, he's coming like this. Bam! Then he'll come back with a left hook. And again, it's kind of loopy. Okay? He loops his left hook to get more leverage, to get more power. Okay? Sometimes it's like a slapping action. So sometimes, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to cuff around the guard of Beterbiev. He's trying to loop around the guard. So a lot of Bieb's shots were looping, whereas Beterbiev had more straight shots when he was fighting. Okay? Don't forget to smash the like button, people. Anybody's coming through here, you know, I'm breaking some knowledge to you guys. Smash the like button at least. Do the common courtesy of that as I break it down. So there is the people who, so styles make fights. So while Beterbiev, the problem with Beterbiev, there's another thing that Beterbiev needs to think about. You can't be throwing the jab at the same speed all the time. The other guy is going to time you. And Beterbiev, though he didn't throw the jab very often, it still came at almost the same velocity and the same speed. And even when Beterbiev throws combinations, they're all, as Bieb so correctly commented, they all have the same weight. They have the same power behind them. You have to vary it. You have to sometimes just tap a guy nice and soft, tap him, and then come with the big bang when you least expect it. And that's the subtlety of boxing that Beterbiev is still rough around the edges with. He still doesn't have that sort of refinement that Bieb has. So this is why I'm trying to tell you guys, boxing's more than you simpletons understand. There's more to it than meets the eye. There's a lot of things that boxers train and practice for that makes them elite fighters. You know, it's more than just endurance and strength and all those kinds of stupid things that you guys talk about. Those things are important, don't get me wrong, but they're not what makes a champion separated from another guy. It's the knowledge. I'm sorry, I'm trying to break it down so you guys will understand. So when Bieb says, you know, that Beterbiev was effective in throwing, you know, on his shoulders and stuff, that's bullshit. To a high degree. You hear people say, oh, hit Floyd on his shoulder, hit him on the shoulder and the arms. You hit a guy who uses the Philly shell on the shoulder and the arms, just bounce off. It was designed to do that. So when you punch me on my shoulder and I lean back this way, the punch bounces off my shoulder. You see? Right? If I have an extended guard, and of course I'm going to be wrestling with you. This hand's going to be doing all kinds of things with your hand. So you can't even You can't even throw nothing. Right? Guys with the extended guard, they be swatting at the other guy's hands, and then they touch both hands, keep them at home, be occupying you. I'm occupying you with all kinds of shit. Okay? And in between, like, okay, so I touch this hand here, I touch this hand here, and then I shoot one up the middle, and then I hook you. And I'm using my lead hand alone, and I'm pivoting around you, and I'm doing this kinds of shit. I got you occupied all over the place. You busy trying to fend off my hand. You see? That's why I said the lead hand is a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with the lead hand. Notice I didn't say the jabbing hand, because I could either switch stances, or I can start to use my power hand as my lead hand. Or I could use both my hands as lead hand, interchange. We see Floyd Mayweather do that. Floyd would be coming at you like this. Right? He's coming at you this way, this way, this way. Ha! Ha! Right? Julio Cesar Chavez used to do that. Square up a little bit and come with both hands. So you occupy with both hands. Now both hands, you got to deal with two hands in your face all the time. Okay? So there's all this stuff that they don't tell you about. Okay? So you you got to be smart. You know, why is that George Foreman versus Muhammad Ali? How much they use the lead hands, and they interchange their lead hands even. And there's sometimes these fights between the lead hand. Literally, they're swatting down each hand, and they're blocking each hand, they're wrestling with each other, kind of like outside there. There's a lot of little tricks in the game, man, that they don't tell you about. Andre Ward knows a lot about that. So that's why Andre Ward is like, I don't even understand what just happened there. I don't understand. Somebody gonna have to explain to me how Beterbiev beat Bivol. You're gonna have to explain that to me. You know, because effectiveness means that I am doing what I want to do more than you are doing what you want to do. It was desperation on Beterbiev's part. He decided, I'm going to try and beat this kid down. And that's what he tried to do in the 11th round. It didn't succeed. It failed. And then in the 12th, he failed even worse, because Bivol was answering him and initiating stuff. Because Bivol been down that road. Bivol seen that stuff before. Okay? That's why I said it was a robbery. Because if you know boxing, you can vomit out what everybody else is saying, you know. But by and large, if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, all you'll be is a parrot. You'll just be a parrot. You won't be able to really, truly tell anyone anything new. As you can see, what you need is not no parrot. He knows what he was watching, because he understands boxing a little bit more than most of you. So when Bieb says that he had Beterbiev winning and it was a close fight, I'm watching at him and shaking my head saying, bro, I guess you don't know what you're talking about, but it is what it is. Real estate. Who's controlling real estate? Controlling real estate is not so much about who's pressuring who, or who's dancing around the ring. No. Controlling real estate will result in somebody hitting another person with clean, effective punches. Okay? I'll demonstrate. Because it's easier to show somebody something than tell them about it. They won't understand. You have to show them. If this is me here and you imagine yourself fighting me, okay? All right? and I decide to fight you moving around the ring. So you're going to initiate and you're going to come to me. My game plan is for you to come to me and I get to counter you. Okay? You are coming into my real estate and I am the ring general if I can get you to come to me. And I can counter you successfully, landing punches on you. That's effective aggression because I am able to land the clean, effective punches when I do mount my offense. However, if I start off boxing you, right, and I'm half-heartedly putting out a jab, and I'm pulling and I'm measuring you, and as you come to me, I'm trying as quickly as possible, I'm tripling up my jab, and I'm moving away, then my game plan isn't to walk you into traps, it's to get away from you. Because I'm not looking to hit you, and I haven't hit you. You have to be able to understand when somebody's going backwards, what they're really doing. In that case, I'm trying to stay away. So there's the stay away jab. A guy will measure another guy with a jab. Now, there are different ways to throw the jab, but I'm going to throw it this way, okay? So I do this, I'm measuring you. I'm pulling with the jab to see how far away I am from you. I'm gauging distance with the jab. And then I'm not throwing the jab to hit you. It means I'm trying to stay away from you. But if I come out, as you're closing the distance, I hit you with the jab, right? And I pivot away, then I'm goading you in so I can counter you. That's the difference. So it's not enough to say to somebody, oh, this guy is running because he's not standing directly in front of the other guy. So you have to understand boxing and what you're looking at. And boxing's a thing that if a multitude of people keep on saying many different things, it can cloud the understanding. That's why what you need, try to do this channel, because I'm not trying to get too many voices in this discussion. I want you guys to really learn boxing. I don't want you thinking that, oh, it's such a subjective sport that, if a guy pressures another guy and he's successful pressuring, I don't know what the fuck that means, but he's successful pressuring the other guy. And the other guy, he's somehow successful at eluding the other guy and doing this game plan. I don't know how else you want to say it. I don't know. That sounds stupid. One of them has to be successful. The other is not necessarily successful unless it's an ebb and flow. And there was no ebb and flows really in this fight. So the point is that this particular fight wasn't about ebb and flow. It was about who was effective. And the effective person here was Bieb. Because he got Beterbiev to do things that Beterbiev was not used to doing. Beterbiev had to respect distance. Beterbiev's not a guy that respects distance for very long. He usually closed down the distance. In this case, Beterbiev was desperate, and so he was just trying to pummel Bieb with a lot of punches and overwhelm him, and it never worked. Because Bieb knew what to do. There was another maneuver that Bieb did to Beterbiev, and it sort of helped to wear him down. And I'm going to show you it. So when Beterbiev would close the distance and he started throwing those short chopping shots, Bieb with his lead hand I'm not southpaw. Right. Beaver lead hand would, again, he would frame him, and then he would do this and clinch his head, pull his head down like this, and he put his body weight over him. Okay? So I frame you first with my jab. As you are trying to shorten up your shots to throw some shots at me, I clinch you underneath my arm. So I pull your head under like this. I pull you back, and then I lean on you. That's some veteran stuff that Bevo did to Beterbiev. You know what I'm saying? So once again, I'm just showing you guys the level that Bevo was at. Beterbiev is not at that level. Okay? He has a nice, sharp, short jab. Like I said before, because his hands are extended out, he has a beautiful, sharp, short jab. His jab is somewhere here. So he just, right there. It's extended, so it's just boom. Kind of reminds me of Lennox Lewis's jab. Okay? All right. I don't really see anything else to really comment on in the chat. We got a Beterbiev fan. That's it. He's just a fanboy, and he's not raising any points. He's not saying anything that really contributes to much here. So I'm not gonna engage him. He's just repeating himself over and over. So to give you guys clarity, yes, Beterbiev was strong. He was powerful. He tried to beat down on Bevo. It didn't work. He couldn't rough up Bevo like he roughed up Gvozdyk or Marcus Brown or Callum Smith. He couldn't do that to Bevo. And so he wasn't effective like Bevo was trying to say. I didn't see him really slow down Bevo either. He was as gassed as Bevo actually going down the stretch. And he wasn't landing much of anything on Bevo. So while I do agree that because of his strength and power, he was able to beat through Bevo's guard and damage Bevo's eye, particularly in the 10th round, that the eye cut open. I disagree that that was more effective than what Bevo was doing to him. And those subtle things I just spoke about, Bevo maintaining a certain distance and range, how he'd circle, how he'd control Beterbiev with his lead hand. How his defense was so tight was the reason why Bevo won the fight. The combinations he put on, how accurate he was with his combination and his punching. All testament to what he was setting up. Like, I'll see, it's chess, it's not checkers, okay? So I'll show you something. So if I want to open you up down the center, I want to get a straight shot straight down the center at you, right? I want to get a straight shot straight down the center. I'm going to first start hooking you or throwing shots around your guard, right? I'm going to try and throw stuff around your guard, right? So Bevo started throwing his jab like this, right? This is how he's throwing it. And he's kind of looping his hand and then boom. Loop his hand and then what, right? Whereas, and even his right hand, he would arc it, right? But then, after he had done that a couple times and set up Beterbiev would be looking, he would open up either to protect the body or to protect the head, and then people would shoot the straight shot down the center. Right? So he'd do that for a couple. In the earlies, he was doing that, and then you shoot the straight shot down. Or he would loop the shot down the center. Okay? So he sweep the right hand. He'd throw a jab that was looping. He would then sometimes hook. He would check hook or he would hook. Sometimes he would hook and then throw a jab off a hook. Sometimes he would throw a hook off a jab. Sometimes he would throw a jab, then a right hand, then a left hook, you know. So he would vary up his offense to the body and to the head. Sometimes he double jab. He would jab to the head and then to the body. Or sometimes he would jab to the body and then to the head. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have things he can work on, but the kind of variety that he put on. And again, Beterbiev, don't get me wrong, he was trying to feint coming in. He was trying to, he would stay right on the periphery and feint like he's coming in and then move back to counter, because he was trying to set up his counters as well. He was trying to set up the counter right hand over Bivol's jab. But he was falling short with it because Bivol himself was leaning forward. So if Bivol needed to get out of range, he just stepped back off an angle. Right? And Bivol was using lateral movement as well. And sometimes you change directions on Beterbiev to make himself less predictable. Right? So there's all these little nuances that a lot of people were not picking up on. And they were thinking, Bivol's running and all kinds of stupid stuff they were saying, not understanding the subtleties of boxing and what you were actually watching in that ring. And again, I'm not saying that Beterbiev is straightforward. I'm not saying he doesn't have good boxing IQ. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying that what Bivol was doing to Beterbiev was a lot more than you guys were thinking. And the fact that he not only completed the fight, but he actually won the fight, in my opinion, and also was landing certain combinations on Beterbiev I never seen nobody do. Landing a lot of combinations on Beterbiev. And Beterbiev, he was even trading with Beterbiev. Beterbiev was throwing punches. He was throwing punches at the same time. He beat Beterbiev sometimes to the punch. Sometimes he catch him with certain punches. And because Beterbiev, once again, has to close the distance to deal with Bivol, Bivol shooting him from the outside, it gave Bivol, again, a lot of advantages over Beterbiev. So, effectiveness, you have to look at it relative to what the other opponent is doing. It's not just, it's effective because he cut his eye or he did it. Yeah, you might have done that, but what's the other guy doing? If he's having more success because you can't hit him, even when you close the distance, you can't hit him, and he's counterpunching you still, then how effective have you really been? You did some damage. Nobody's saying no, but it wasn't a flush shot. Imagine what damage you could have done if you could have hit him flush. So it's all of that you have to consider, and that's why I just wanted to talk about Joe Habib and what he said. And that if you're looking at it just on the surface, yes, Beterbiev did do damage to Bivol in the 10th round by, catching him with a punch where Bivol, even though he blocked it, he still got cut. Right? But effectively, in terms of the fight, he wasn't very effective. He wasn't stopping Bivol from doing what Bivol wanted to do. He couldn't penetrate Bivol's defense sufficiently enough to slow him down, really disable him so he could dominate. He never had that opportunity, So that's what I got for you guys. I am what you need. It was fun talking to you guys. Should I engage this SDE guy? Let me quickly just deal with him. So SD says it's a tough one to score. I disagree with that. If you know your boxing, it's not. He's saying a lot of things, but he's not backing up anything. He talked about 20 KOs. What a machine. He has the gas to win on scorecards also. 20 KOs? Maybe. He didn't KO Bivol, 1. 2. He didn't significantly hurt Bivol at any point in time. He really didn't slow down Bivol. He didn't take away Bivol's legs. He couldn't really corner Bivol and keep him in the corner. What did he actually do? Nothing. He effectively tried to pressure Bivol as much as he could, but it amounted mostly to nothing. Just like Golovkin versus Canelo 1. This guy's just a Bivol fan, I can see. He really has nothing to back up here. He effectively said nothing. So that's what I got for you guys. I am what you need. I'll see you guys later. Peace.